It's not about where you came from or who you were in your past life. It's about what you do with those past experiences and how you apply that to your life, to your present, to create a better future. Don't let your past predict and tell the story of your future. Like, your future is whatever it is that you want it to be. The question is, are you going to put in the work on yourself to make a better future for yourself? Hello, and welcome to Situaseans Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Williams, aka Shawnee Doo. You can call me Sean, Shawnee, Shawnee Doo. Does not matter to me. I'm just glad that y'all are here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 9. I'm so glad that you all are, coming back to each episode, listening in, allowing me to share my voice with you. You are listening to Situations Podcast, giving you a little bit of ASMR for your ears. You're probably getting ready for work right now, or you're in your car in a commute on your way to work, school, hanging out with your friends, or maybe you're at home doing chores, or maybe you're working from home. Wherever you are, while you're listening to this podcast, I just want to say thank you. Whenever you listen to this podcast, you are dripping love onto my heart. No, but seriously, thank you all so much for tuning in. Like, every time you all tune in to the show, you share it with the group chat, you share it with your friends, your families, your coworkers, anybody with ears. Like, whenever you share this podcast, it literally just puts another drop of love on my heart. Drip, drip, drip. Share, and submit your stories, So, yeah, this podcast is about dating, relationships, mental and emotional life experiences for those of you that are just tuning into this podcast. And those of you that have been listening for a while, you know what the format is. Listeners submits their stories and questions. I unpack it. I talk about, some of the stuff that I'm going through. Yeah. So, I'm just excited that this podcast is just, we just have a whole setup going. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be incorporating more segments into this show. And I want to thank the Patreon folks, the folks that are subscribed to the private community to get all the bonus and exclusive content. You all fucking rock. I swear, each time I, go back and just and I'm about to share some behind the scenes content. I'm yeah, the Patreon people, those are the day ones, the real ones, and don't get me wrong, anybody that's listening, you a real one too. I just want y'all to know that. But I'm just saying, by joining that Patreon community, you're helping independent creators like myself put out great content and high quality content like this to be able to continue to do what we do best, and which is, content creation. So definitely consider joining the Patreon community. That's patreon.com/Situations Podcast. And yeah, you can get started for literally $3 and a month, which is less than the price of a cup of coffee. I mean, come on, that is a fucking steal. So consider joining the private Patreon community, because so much exclusive content and so much, the receipts and the screenshots and everything that I share from all the crazy situations that I go through in my private life. It's all there. I got nothing to hide. I just want you guys to be able to just, look and see and learn from my experiences that I go through and my own life experiences. So yeah, join the private Patreon community. So today is August 2nd, and if you all are listening to this podcast, I am away in Las Vegas, just partying it up, getting lit as fuck, and just not, caring about anything else but just having a great time. I have been working my ass off this entire fucking year at work. And this is the first paid time off that I'm taking from work. That's how crazy work has been. Whereas I couldn't even feel like I can truly take time off without feeling guilty. That's quite fucked up. But hey, at the end of the day, I'm working hard, so I'm playing hard, right? So yeah, if you are listening to this podcast on August 2nd, Wednesday, August 2nd, I am in Vegas, and yeah, just have a drink for me, like wish me all the great luck and fortune that I come back to Chicago with, a little bit of, I guess winnings from gambling, I guess. I'm not going to gamble too much, but yeah, I'm just enjoying my time in Vegas. So yeah, thank y'all for still tuning in to this episode of the podcast. And also, I just want to give a really quick tidbit before I really jump into the meat and potatoes of this episode. It is so important to be able to take time to yourself and be within yourself and just do the things that you really want to do in life, because life is so precious and a lot of us don't really take that necessary time to ourselves, to be within ourselves, to go out there in the world and just explore what we want in life and explore ourselves, explore our identities, as well as immersing ourselves in other cultures. Because you know what? A lot of us are kind of just self-centered and we just care about us, but not about what's out there in the world. So yeah, I highly recommend that you take time away from work, away from doing all the nitty-gritty daily grind shit, to do the things that you really want to do and take time for yourself and be kind to yourself. That shit is so fucking important. So be kind to yourself, take time to yourself. So today's episode is going to be talking about letting go of the past and living your best life and doing you. And also, we're going to be unpacking a listener submission talking about traveling, where to go, places to go, and places that you may want to avoid, which is really important. So this is like the perfect kind of episode that you all are really listening to today. Because like I said, I'm out in Vegas right now at the time of, this recording, like by the time you all are like listening to this, that like on August 2nd. So, I'm literally out there on the road just having fun. So this is like really speaking loudly to today's episode and topic. So I definitely want to jump into that and kind of just, talk more about that, because it's so important to consider and plan your trips and your travels. So kind of unpacking the first like few topics of this podcast about, especially today's episode about, letting go of the past and, making the best that you can with your life situations. So yeah, I grew up in a traumatic household, and I didn't know what happiness really was until I left home. It took something in me to really just wake up one day and just say, you know what? I don't need this trauma. I don't need this abuse. I don't need all this negative talk that I'm getting from Flanders. And those of you who don't know, but Flanders is a nickname that a lot of people on my block gave my stepdad because he acts like Ned Flanders from The Simpsons. But the thing is, a lot of people, I guess a lot of people know at this point, like that he wasn't the ideal male role model in my life, and he was just very abusive. He would hit me with the first thing that he finds, yell at me and kind of just call me just like the worst things, like fuck you, you should be dead, like you better sleep with both eyes open, I'll snap your neck in your sleep, shit like that, and him and I were always fighting, literally throwing hands every single fucking day. Like that shit was just terrible. But he repeated a cycle from his stepfather, and he just put that same hurt onto me and my siblings. And yeah, so just growing up in that household, I really didn't get a lot of exposure of good moments and what happiness really was. And so my past was just so dark, and it just made it so hard for me to live life and think positively without being pessimistic because of everything that was just going on under that roof. So I was glad that when I was 17, I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm going to end up just, in dead or in jail. Because like I'm gonna do something and like I'm gonna end up just killing like fucking killing this man and end up in jail. So let me just like get the fuck out and just leave home because shit was just getting crazy and crazier and crazier. And everybody that knew what was going on was like, yeah, Sean, you did the right thing by leaving home. Like even my mom's like superior like at her job, because my mom used to work for the police department, Chicago Police Department, and she was processing like paperwork and stuff like that and doing reports. So she was like an admin, but yeah, her commanding office, like the commanding officer, like her commander was like, yeah, like he literally sat me down, was just like, yeah, it's good that you left because yeah, you didn't have a lot of options and you made the best life for yourself that you could make. And I'm glad that you decided to just leave and not even entertain the bullshit. So yeah, I'm glad that I made that decision to leave. Yeah, I never was able to really feel like I could just trust anybody, only because, I felt like I didn't have a voice, and I felt really didn't have a voice. Like there is no, I felt like I just did not have a voice. And on top of that, because my mom was kind of in the middle of it, she definitely loved Flanders, and she loved, her kids, obviously, but just her being stuck in the middle. And I remember one time being like, why can't you just, move out and just take us with you? And she was like, well, I got 5 kids and there's just no way that I'll be able to afford, moving somewhere else and taking care of 5 kids, which makes sense. But at the same time, and this was, when I was like 11 or 12 or whatever, just asking, can we just move, and just forget this man. But she was stuck in the middle. And because of that, I grew up just not really feeling like there was anybody that could really look out for me. So I had to learn how to look out for myself. I had to learn how to be an adult on my own. I had to learn how to figure out life lessons and, ways to be a better person for myself. I had to learn all that my damn self. Nobody taught me that. Nobody taught me how to shave. Nobody taught me how to be a man. Again, I was just siloed from it all. And I just learned it all on my own. And again, I definitely want to have more episodes that talks more about, a lot of my past, but just given the time constraints within this episode, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I learned a lot of these life lessons and values on my own. And then, about 3 years ago when I got my therapist, like when I started seeing my therapist, yeah, I was able to kind of process a lot of stuff too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was processing it all way before therapy and doing all the work way before therapy. And I was in a great spot without therapy, and not many people can say that. And I was very self-aware before therapy. Again, not many people can say that, but therapy definitely helped me kind of reflect on the past and look back at how far I came without it affecting me negatively, where it's like, man, I'm just so bitter, I'm this and that. I should have had this kind of childhood, but I didn't because Flanders was doing this and my mom wasn't really there for me like she needed to be, So it helped me to kind of just look back on everything without, being bitter and sour and kind of just self-destructing and, undoing all the hard work that I did on myself. So shout out to therapy. Literally, if you all are out there that are thinking about seeing a therapist, it'll help you. Highly recommend it. In the end, Flanders prevented me from having a relationship with my siblings because even when I left home, I would come back sometimes and be like, hey, I would tell my mom, hey, can I hang out with my siblings? Can I take them to go get ice cream or whatever? And she'd be like, well, Flanders, he's gonna complain and be like, why did Sean take the kids without asking him and stuff like that? It's just like, those are my siblings. You mean to tell me I'm not allowed to hang with my siblings like without, just like sibling time? I have to, kind of just only hang out with them whenever I come by to visit them. I can't just take them out somewhere. It was just very, very fucked up. And my siblings, they're all very close with each other. I love them so much. And, they have looked out for me in so many ways that, that I never thought that they would ever do, only because, again, we weren't like the closest. And so just by them being, so amazing and stuff like that, we've looked out for each other in so many ways, like in our later years, than what we were able to do growing up. Because again, by the time I left, the next sibling under me was like 11 or 12 or something like that. So yeah. And the youngest was 5. So they barely have any memory of me. Like they barely have any memory of me ever really being home like that. So, as we got older, I was able to kind of hang out with them a little bit more, but yeah, just by Flanders kind of blocking that establishment that we could have had growing up, like that really kind of put a dent or a detriment within like how close I was able to really get with my siblings. Same thing with family, extended family, cousins, uncles, aunts, uncles. Like Flanders prevented me and my siblings and my mom a lot of times from hanging out with family and going around and just spending quality time with them, or having family come over. He would forbid them from coming over, or try to forbid us from like going out. And my mom couldn't even leave the house without reporting to Flanders, because it would be like, oh, where are you going? Where are you going? Like, why are you going there? How long are you going to be? What time are you getting home? And it's just like, yo, like she's a grown ass fucking adult. Like you leave and go out at odd hours of the night, and she doesn't question you. Like, why the fuck are you all like controlling with her? So it was just a very toxic household, just growing up. And, a lot of ways my mom, because she was kind of stuck in the middle, she really didn't do enough to make sure that the toxicity of Flanders would not affect us. Like it did. Like I love my mom to death, and I had a conversation with her about this. And it definitely hurt her hearing that from me. And I never really got a chance to really say a lot of this, but I told her this is how I've been feeling. And honestly, I don't even know if my mom and siblings listen to my podcast, because when I did episode, 1 or 2 or something like that, like I kind of heard from my mom that they did not like how I was kind of airing out some of the stuff that Flanders was doing, and those behaviors, and I guess the failures that he had as a father figure. And I get it, like, for my siblings, because that's their biological father, but that's my stepdad or whatever, so no blood relation. But I don't see him as like, he's not my my stepdad. I don't see him as such. But and then my mom, she did all that she could, and she looked out for us, financially, like whenever she could, have money in her pocket. She would give us her last dime, and but it was just more so like the moral support and a little bit of the parental support, as far as, making sure that the other parental figure wasn't causing damage to our lives. That's where she kind of dropped the ball a little bit. But again, I learned how to just make my own way and make my own life. And I came out as a better man because of the fact that I just say, you know what? I'm not going to repeat the cycle and be the same person that Flanders was to, like to me. I'm not going to do that to the next person. And when I have kids, I'm not going to do that to them, and as far as the mistakes that my mom made as a parent, I mean, no parent is perfect, but the mistakes that my mom made, like I'm going to make sure that when I become a parent one day, I'm not going to, I'm not going to just be in the middle or whatever. If there is like tension between like my partner and our child, I'm going to try to like make sure that we can solve it as a family unit, and so it is what it is. But I just wish that there were ways that my mom could have just, I guess, realized sooner and kind of did check-ins with me and my siblings to see, hey, I know that things are tough right now, and he's being this way, but I want you kids to know that I love you and I'm here for you. Like that's the one thing that I wish my mom had said and did. But she never really did on a surface level of, hey, you need a ride to school. You need, I got a little bit of change, like lunch money, this is all I have, she was there for us whenever she could. And again, we grew up in a very lower, I guess, like middle class-ish type of household or whatever. But before, when it was just me and my mom, we was like low income oodles and noodles or whatever. My mom did everything that she could to support me and her. And yeah, like again, at the end of the day, my mom's a real one. But yeah, I just wish that when it came to Flanders and how he treated me and my siblings, I just wish that she just stepped up a little bit more and just said, hey, you're not going to treat my son like that. Like, you are going to respect him and treat him equally the same way you treat your biological kids. Like even though Sean's not your blood, you need to man the fuck up and treat him like he is your blood. Like that's the one thing that I wish that my mom did. But hey, we all go through things. We all have trials and tribulations in life. I'm just glad that my past didn't affect me negatively to the point where it's like I recycled those traits and started treating other people like shit. So I'm just glad that it hasn't fucked me up in the sense of that I don't know how to treat people. So I'm just glad that, I was able to do the work and be the best version of me that I could be. And this last point is probably going to sound a little bit sad, but at the same time, to me, because this is something that I'm used to, it never really bothered me to a point where you would think it would. So holidays and, birthdays, I celebrate by myself. So Christmas, Thanksgiving, I do it by myself. Birthdays, I celebrate it by myself. When I was with a partner, of course, I celebrated with my significant other, but I'm just talking about in the few couple of years that I've been single, I've just been celebrating it by myself. So last Thanksgiving, I just cooked a big old meal. The year before, I cooked a big old meal, and it was just me. And I was just watching Christmas movies and holiday movies. And it was therapeutic, honestly, because I wasn't worrying about family drama or, if I come by the house, is Flanders going to be a dick? Or what drama am I going to be dealing with today? So it was just so refreshing, just legit celebrating by myself. And yeah, I wish I could have celebrated with family and, but it was just much needed time to myself. And I think as long as I'm staying single for like at least for until I find my other half or whatever, at least in the time that I'm single, I'm going to just continue that tradition of just celebrating Christmas and Thanksgiving, like the big holidays by myself. I mean, there are some holidays that I spend with, friends and stuff like that. But as far as like the big holidays where it's like people are out of town and only spending time with family, those holidays I'm going to just do by myself because it's just easier and I don't have to deal with the drama. And yeah. It is what it is at the end of the day, but one day I'll have a family to spend those holidays with, and it'll be new traditions that I can kind of establish with them. So yeah, and like even sometimes on like New Year's, there was a couple New Year's that I like spent, by myself, but then there were New Year's that I spent with friends and stuff like that, or did some house hopping. So it kind of just depends, but for the most part, Christmas and Thanksgiving have just been, me. And of course, like my mom and siblings, this last Christmas they FaceTimed or whatever. It's just to, say hey, Merry Christmas and do a little gift exchange. My mom, she had got like gifts for me and my siblings this past year, and that was nice. So yeah, I definitely enjoy just doing Christmas and Thanksgiving by myself. So hey, if you're out there and you do holidays by yourself, tell me what it's like. Drop a comment or DM me. Tell me what your holiday traditions are, especially if you are celebrating it by yourself. I'd love to know. Maybe I can practice that and incorporate that into my solo holiday traditions. So when I first started this podcast, and again, this is probably about 2 episodes in, 1 episode or 2, one of the 2, I don't know. But when I was talking about my relationship or lack thereof relationship with Flanders, a family member had reached out and was just like, yeah, do you think you should really be talking about that stuff especially on such a public platform where other people can listen in? Well, what about, friends and family that I know, especially if it's on Facebook or if it's online? Like, what will that make us look like? What will that make the family look like? What will that make, me, like that individual, look like? And I'm just like, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot share on my podcast that I built from the ground up? And also, on top of that, I went through so much hurt and pain under that roof that no child should ever have to go through. And you have the audacity to tell me like what trauma and what emotional experiences that I should say. And their rebuttal was, oh, I'm not trying to silence you. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just trying to really understand why. And it's just like, because I was so hurt. No one was really looking out for me. And talking to this individual, you weren't there the way that I needed you to be as well. And it's just like, a lot of other family wasn't there the way I needed them to be. And so it's just like, I grew up without the sense of what a family actually looks like. Like, there were no family vacations. There were no, like as far as like family gatherings, it was rare because Flanders would forbid us from going over to family, and then vice versa. He would prevent them from coming over. And then on top of that, Flanders was just causing so much drama, calling like, aunts and uncles bitches, literally be like literally to like my aunt, like you a bitch or whatever, and just calling people out of their names and out of context. And so of course, souring relationship, like he's souring relationships with family members. So it's like, of course, nobody wants to come over. Of course, like there's no family gatherings because Flanders is just, pretty much just siloing like that nuclear family from everybody. So I never really grew up with fun family barbecues and stuff like that happening on like on like all the time, and family vacations and really getting close with like relatives and stuff like that. So of course when I started this podcast, I was like, hey, I'm going through all these experiences. Let me just talk about it, because other people out there, whether it's dating experiences, life experiences, mental health, emotional health experiences, maybe this platform and me just sharing and just being open with somebody will help others that are going through the same thing, because they can take that and turn their lives into a positive the way that I worked so hard to turn my life into a positive, because I've processed all of that. I've done the work on myself, and that's why I'm able to openly talk about this. So the fact that this family member, this relative, came to me to just to try to like, and essentially, and like the way I saw it, silence me from sharing my pain and the stuff that I've gone through. It really hit a nerve. It really struck a nerve. And again, I just had to just shut them down and just say, hey, like, at the end of the day, if Flanders didn't do all of that to me, and if my, mom and nuclear family were there for me the way that I needed them to be, then yeah, I wouldn't have gone through all of those experiences, and I wouldn't have grew up on my own without any like functioning like familial units. So I had to do it all on my own. I was my own family. Don't get me wrong. I had my best friend Pedro and his family, but at the end of the day, yeah, there was no family for me. So I don't know what that fucking looks like. So of course I'm going to get on here and share the stuff that I've gone through, because I want to help others who are going through the exact same shit. And so if anybody is out there trying to tell you what you can and cannot, process and share as far as your life experiences, like, tell them, like, no, like, at the end of the day, those are your experiences. And if you want to share that, then share that and learn from your past, so that you don't become the people in those situations of your past. Because at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, it's not about where you came from or who you were in your past life. It's about what you do with those past experiences and how you apply that to your life, to your present, to create a better future. Don't let your past predict and tell the story of your future. Like, your future is whatever it is that you want it to be. The question is, are you going to put in the work on yourself to make a better future for yourself? If I'm not being open and honest and transparent with you, then I'm not doing no one any good, because why would I start a podcast about, dating and relationships, mental and emotional life experiences, if I'm not openly talking about my situations and my experiences? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a huge disservice to you as a listener. And that's a huge disservice to me as well, because it's like, I'm not sharing these experiences. I'm not being vulnerable. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's important for me to be able to share these experiences, because, I got to do those check-ins with myself, because I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. And that's super, super, super important. And I just want to be a decent human being. Just like, I want people to know that it's important to take care of yourself and do the work. So I'm gonna just keep being open and honest with y'all. As long as my heart is still beating and this podcast is still going, I'm gonna always keep it real and 100 with y'all, because I fucking love y'all and you fucking matter. Today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or you just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more within minutes of finishing your recording. Hey, can I let you in a little secret? So I use Buzzsprout to host Situaseans podcast, and let me tell you, it has been the easiest tool I've ever come across for publishing and running a podcast. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. So come on, join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. follow the link in the show notes, and that'll let Buzzsprout know that we sent you. And guess what? That gets you $20 credit if you sign up for a paid plan, and overall, that helps support our show. Let's create something great together. All right, so I want to go ahead and jump into the listener submission and talk about travel and places that out in the world that you want to go and see and stuff like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right on in to that listener submission. This listener had submitted their question, and it says, travel experiences, where to go and where not to go. All right, so that's a great question. I mean, very to the point. I really appreciate it. I guess you're just keeping it, short, sweet, to the point. But yeah, so there are so many places in the world to go. I mean, the world is a huge, huge fucking place. Let's just start with that. And also, it depends on what it is that you're into. Are you traveling for family, or are you traveling, by yourself, or what's the experience that you're trying to get? So I guess it all really depends on what do you want to get from that traveling experience. So starting with that. So let's say you want to go to Mexico, or you want to go to, Italy, like if you want to visit these, like these, international destinations, then you do you go ahead and do that. But it all depends on, what it is that you want to get from that travel experience. So there's a couple things that I do want to call out, and I think it's really important to consider all of this before you book that flight and you book that hotel or Airbnb. So let's kind of talk about that really quickly here. So, you want to first and foremost travel to places that aren't under travel restrictions, obviously, because what if you're traveling somewhere and it's like, well, this area is kind of off limits to like general public, or is off limits to like tourists and stuff like that. And if you're just sneaking on in, or if you somehow find a way to get in, I guess undetected, you might end up stuck there. So don't do that. So travel to places that first and foremost don't have restrictions, and places that, that aren't in a political conflict or war. So perfect example. I mean, like, unfortunately right now we kind of have a thing, like at the time of this recording, Russia started a war with Ukraine and invaded Ukraine. So, if you won't be able to kind of travel to that part of Europe, because obviously that part of Europe is going through a political warfare and actual war. So it's like that. So you have to kind of, do your research ahead of time. This is why the tech people in Silicon Valley created all of these apps, these social media platforms, Google, because this is giving you firsthand information, especially, certain platforms that highlight, hey, this is factual information. But they, if you go to Google, Instagram, you can see what's going on in the world around you, and Twitter or whatever, or X, whatever the fuck Elon Musk is calling it now. Like, it's a fucking X symbol, but I digress. Who would do that to Twitter? I don't know. But anyway, so use these social media platforms to see, okay, what's going on in this certain part of the world, because that'll kind of help you do your research as you're looking in to see, okay, where you might want to go, where you might want to avoid. Also, look into a travel agent if you are unsure about a certain place in the world that you're going to. Travel agents, of course, they got to collect that fee, But at the same time, that's their job. That's what they're there to help you. They're there to book your entire experience. So having a travel agent really comes in fucking handy. I've used a travel agent a couple of times, especially when I flew down to Mexico to visit the Mayan ruins. I mean, I had that travel agent kind of help set up that whole itinerary, because it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to go visit the Mayan ruins, I got to go through certain parts of Mexico, and I want to make sure that I know where the fuck I'm going, because I don't want to end up somewhere where it's like I don't know how to navigate or get lost, or worse, something happens to me, knock on wood. But use a travel agent, or if got family or friends out there in these places like that you're traveling to, use them as a resource, because they'll help you. They'll be like, oh, hey, okay, cool. I can pick you up and I'll show you around or whatever. So kind of do your research before you book any destination, any travel destinations or anything like that. Even if it's like a remote destination, look into places or people or agencies that can give you a tour, or someone that can be with you during that excursion, especially if they speak the language. Because if you're traveling to somewhere, and you don't know the language, how are you going to know how to navigate? How are you going to know who you can and can't, confide in? What if someone is kind of like coming off as trustworthy, but turns out, oh, they're trying to just scam you, or they're trying to like kidnap you, and now you're being trafficked somewhere and God knows where. So make sure you look into somebody that knows the area. You also want to make sure that you got money and you got proper funds and cash in your pocket. So don't go to Europe, or don't go to, somewhere in Asia, or somewhere in Africa, and you ain't got the correct currency. American dollars ain't gonna fucking get you too fucking far. So if you're going somewhere, make sure that you have the correct currency for that area or region. So again, go back and do your research. What currency does this country or this division or this subset uses? And always carry cash. Because here's the thing. If you're in another part of the world and let's say something happens and it's like you lose your card, or your credit card, debit card, whatever card you're using isn't accepted in that area. Well, now you ain't got no cash. So how are you going to be able to pay to get around? Or how are you going to be able to pay to get back to the airport or whatever, to make sure you catch your fucking flight? So always, take out cash. There are so many different currency exchanges around the world, or places that you can go to essentially turn your money, your credit or whatever, your debit or whatever funds into cash, and vice versa. There's places you can go to turn your physical cash, your American dollars, or whatever currency that you are using, depending on where you live. There are places that you can turn that physical money, physical tender, into the tender or, funds of that region. So, and for those youngins on here that that don't know what Tinder is another way of just saying money, not the dating app. Also, I want to leave you with this. Download language apps. Download a translator. Download, what's that app? Babbel. Download, what's that other app? Is on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, download all these different language apps so that you can start learning the language of these other different regions and places that you're traveling to. Duolingo, that's the other app I was thinking about. Yeah, so definitely download those apps, because guess what you can do? These like Duolingo and Babbel, they give you fun lessons for you to learn languages of over, what is that? I think it's like 50 or 100 different languages of, multiple countries and regions. So they give you these fun ways to learn another language, and you can pick up on that. You want to learn the essentials like basic directions, how to use like where to go, like where's the bathroom, like water, food, like a doctor, hospital, like important necessities. As long as you know how to say at least those things, those examples that I just gave you, and whatever language of the region that you're traveling to, that'll really go so far. Because if you can't even speak not one sentence or not one word of wherever it is you're traveling to, you shouldn't be traveling. You should just stay right wherever it is you are. The purpose of traveling is to be able to immerse yourself in another place that you've never been before. Ideally, that's the whole point of travel, is you're going out to experience something. It's a learning of something new that you've never done or experienced before. I mean, that's the goal of traveling. Now, people have very different reasons or ideologies of what travel means to them, but I'm just saying in a general sense, that's what traveling is. So, download these language apps, learn a little bit of the local phrases, the local customs. That's another thing too. Do your research on the customs of that region, because if you're not sure of like certain like etiquettes of a place, and you're just walking in like you own the place, oh yeah, like people aren't going to be too fond with you, or you might be offending the locals of that area. So don't go around just like pretty much stomping around as if you own the place, because it's disrespectful to others and you're not making yourself look any good. And unfortunately, the way a lot of things in the world works is if you are from another place and you're going to go visit a new place that you're not from and it's not part of your culture, and you're just disrespecting that culture, the natives of that place or whatever that you're traveling to, they're going to see that as a reflection of that entire group. So if I'm an American and I'm going to I'm going to Argentina, and I'm just like walking around like I own the place or whatever, they'll be like, it's fucking American. Look at like American, like what the fuck? Like pinche americano? Like, so like you have to be mindful and do your research, know a little bit of like the very bare minimum of the language that you're going to, so you can speak a little bit of it, so you know so you can get food, water, shelter, the essentials. And then also make sure that you have the right funds. Make sure that you know somebody out there, or have an itinerary or a travel agent like guide, or somebody, or a tour guide, someone who can help you. And then, make sure that your family and friends know where you are, because if you're traveling by yourself and nobody knows where you are, and they don't hear from you like a week or two, they're going to assume something happened. So communicate with the people back at home, wherever you're at, so that people know where you're going. So keep all that in mind. Be good to yourself. Have fun traveling. And stay safe out there. I want to thank the listeners so very much for submitting your story, your question. It's so important, just hearing from you all and just knowing what it is that you have a question about, because we all have these different life experiences, these different things that, we go through in life. And again, I just want to make sure that, you all have the tools and resources that you need to go out there and be the best version of yourselves, the way that I'm trying to be the best version of myself. I'm just giving you the input and the experiences and stuff that I've gone through, and just hoping that, hey, maybe it'll help you and you can take that and help others. So continue to submit your stories and questions. So there's 3 ways that you can submit. The first way is going to situationspodcast.com/submit, situaseanspodcast.com/submit, or call the hotline 312-586-2664. It's just a general hotline. Nobody's going to pick up, so just call it, let it ring the voicemail, leave your voice message, and then we'll play it live on the show. Or you can email it, situationspod@gmail.com, situaseanspod@gmail.com. All right, so you got 3 ways to submit. I can't wait to hear from you. Again, whenever you submit your stories, your questions, it just drops another little drip of love on my heart. So drip, 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 submit, submit, submit. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/situationspodcast, and follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere. TikTok, all that. So follow us on social media. And I got a special little, surprise for y'all. I got a special guest coming on for the next episode, for episode 10. So episode 10, that's a huge milestone. I've made it to 10 episodes. Like, come on. Like, that's a huge thing, for a huge deal for me. So I'm going to give myself a little clap, a little round of applause, a little pat on the shoulders, whatever. Yeah. So I can't wait for you all to meet my guest that I'm having on on the next episode. And yeah, we're definitely going to unpack a lot. And we got another listener submission that we're going to be going through. So can't wait for the next episode. And again, thank you all for tuning in to this podcast. Right now, I'm just probably at a pool, sipping a little cocktail in Vegas as you all are listening to this on August 2nd, the day that this episode is currently out. So yeah, thank you all for everything that you do. I really appreciate you. You matter. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you all back here for the next episode in a couple of weeks.